What are the new offices going to look like? How many days a week it's going to be? What's the new workforce going to look like, with so many institutions and so many organizations announcing that they're going to be, the new norm is going to be working from home? What does that really mean? What does working from home really mean? So we've been working from home. It is COVID. Yes, things are different. Many of us get up in the morning and we have nowhere to go. I mean, TikTok's going wild, right? With all of the TikToks saying, "I'm bored at home," or "bored at home, what to do, nothing to do." But really, have you ever thought that many people that I've really spoken to this past week actually had an alumni gathering last week, and most of my alumni said that they have been working a lot longer and a lot harder ever since the work from home started. Many have said that they're working, almost like two people's jobs. So why are people working so hard? And does that mean that that's going to continue when you go back to the workplace? Are you going back in an office setting, or are you just going to be a constant virtual setting? Many years ago, when I got into job development, and used to look for different kinds of tech jobs, because for the past 10 years I've been in the IT sector. When I would look for a lot of tech jobs, and people would look at working from home or remote jobs as almost a luxury, because that wasn't something that was common. And it was, if it was common, it was somewhat common in the tech industry, so it kind of worked, but it was a luxury. Now it's a norm. So, as we want to talk about it, what does the future of workplace really look like? Let me bring to you my wonderful guests for the day, the main speakers of the last call, Sayali and Leo. Hi, guys. How are you guys doing?
Good, Meena. How are
Very
you?
good. Hi, Mina.
Hello, hello. How's your day been so far?
It's
Very
great.
good.
It's Wednesday evening. Can't complain.
Can't complain. It's a beautiful sunny day
Yeah.
outside,
Yeah.
Finally
right?
in Toronto.
Finally in Toronto. Wait,
Mhm.
last night we had the hailstorm. So, you
Yes.
know what?
Very interesting weather.
Yes,
Mhm.
interesting weather, but that's how life is in Canada, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, guys, today's topic is something is so relevant, and everybody's talking about it, but no one really knows what's the future going to look like. So, going to give the floor to you guys to have this to start off this conversation on what is the future looking like from your experience.
And very interesting topic, Meena. And I'd just like to touch on a couple of things you mentioned in your intro, right? Yes, I think all of us have had a taste of working remotely over the last couple of months now, and everyone sort of adapted to it in their own way, right? To your point, most tech workers have already used to it in some capacity, and some were still sort of getting used to it. So I think by now everyone sort of found a way to adapt, make it work. And absolutely, I'm hearing people say that as well, that they're happy to work longer, harder, if they have the luxury, as you put it, right, of working from home, if they don't have to spend 2 hours commuting into office. So those are sort of the common themes and common feedback that I've been hearing. And a couple interesting things too, right? Like, for example, you're working in an office space, you have a question, you walk over to your coworker and ask, simple as that. Now you have to book meetings, like for every little question, right? So those sometimes take longer. So those are some of the things that I've been hearing as well. So all around, very interesting dynamic into this whole workspace, work life, working from home component. What do you think, Leo?
Well, I catch like what you said, like working from home, like used to be like a luxury, right?
Hmm.
People, not any people can do it, and even like just the office work. That's come the question um, to the management is like, okay, how can I make sure like you really work when you're not in the office? And working from home was seen as a privilege to some people. Certain people you can work from home, certain people you cannot, like, but just because of the performance thing. And now I think so many people are working from home now. So I think in the future it's kind of difficult for the employer to decline this kind of request, right? Because okay, now we already get used to this working from home environment. Like, what's the point or what's the reason? So like, you cannot let me work from home. And of course, it's like that's come to another question: is like how the employer measures the performance, because you are working from home. Maybe some people like, okay, if I don't see you in the office, then you're not working. So then maybe they have to come up with a different measures on the performance review. And that's something like the employer, they have to think about.
Yeah, very interesting, Leo. And to your point, right? Like, it's very difficult. The only thing that proves your productivity is results, right? Because they are not seeing you, they don't know how productive you're being. So, absolutely, there are some
And somehow,
conversations
yeah,
going
and
around
somehow
it
I
as
can
well.
argue is like, okay, for example, some people in the office, maybe they sitting at the corner of the office, like you don't see your manager like every single minute, right? So what's the difference then? You are not monitoring anyway. So like, but even we are like, our mindset is just like we are in the same space, like in the office, then can you assume like we are performing well? That somehow it doesn't relate it to me yet.
Yeah.
I remember that before, when email and messenger had become the norm in the offices, and we would find we'd find ways to message our co-workers sitting in the next office, or our boss. And then there was all this conversation about, hey, why would you send a message on messenger? Why don't you just come to my office and have a conversation? And now that's just not possible, right? It has to be a messenger. It needs to be. And I heard today that quite a few offices have actually started that, going to Leo's point, the call tracking or the
Oh,
work
is it?
tracking. Yes,
Oh, interesting.
where, yeah, they need your webcam on. And you can only close your webcam if you're taking your regular breaks.
Wow.
So, yeah, that's.
I don't know how I feel about that.
But who is monitoring that then? Is it someone really like a
Managers
surveillance? Is it
or
like a surveillance
HR?
person, like to look at the people and then report back to the manager? Like,
Hey, that's
That's
a new job
exactly.
created right there.
that's a new
Job
opportunity,
strategy.
right? Yeah.
That's exactly what I said. I'm like, so they need to have a security person to watch the tracking? What is this? But it was interesting to know that, uh, at some places people are working harder than ever, and in the other places people are slacking. So with these both extremes, where are we moving forward with this?
Yeah,
How are
how
we
do you
moving
find the
forward?
middle ground, right?
Yeah.
Especially coming back, like it has its challenges, like having or managing virtual employees, as well as this whole return to the workplace kind of thing, right? So yeah, it has its challenges, both
And I guess
phenomenal.
going to your point, Sally, what you were saying was, at the end of the day, if the work gets done, then it's a good day, right?
Mhm.
It's all about KPIs at the end of the day.
And and of course, we don't have the crystal ball to tell what's going to happen in the future. But I can see that working from home, or like, I don't think it will be 100% like every company, like, unless it's because of the government they recommend, right? But to me, maybe in the future, it's more like I don't think working from home will eliminate the office, eliminate the face-to-face meeting, but just create more options, like how to do the business. So for example, like commuting. So I know some people, maybe they have to take 2 hours to commute, but do you have to go back to the office like every single day? maybe that's an flexibility. And it's also affect the business travel, right? So okay, if you can do the meeting like through the Zoom, through the virtual settings, then why you have to spend the money on the business traveling? So that's another thing that like that could be changed, and we just have to be more creative, right?
Yep.
And to have find some new ways to do the business.
To figure out options.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and also the other thing I find it very interesting is like I think many years ago, the trend of the office is like, oh, we have to take down the barriers, we have to create more teamwork, we have to create more communication. So
Yeah.
and then you can see that like very common the open concept office. So everyone just sit, maybe 4 or 5 people sit on the same big table, and then maybe you sit with your VP, you sit with your director, and then just create more communication. But and then now because of this COVID-19 thing, I think many companies say, oh, I wish I didn't do it, right? Because if they have the separate cubicle, then make the workplace safer
More
for the
secure.
employee to
Yeah.
come back. But now it's like if you really have like a really big open space, and like then you have to do extra work to make sure to have the social distancing, and then you have to make sure the health and safety of the employees. So I find this one is very interesting, like
Yeah, that's a
because
good point, Leo. Like, will the
yeah,
cubicles come back? Like,
yeah.
do we see a return of the cubicles? Who knows, right? But that's a very valid point to enforce those social distances and safe workplaces.
Yeah.
Hmm. Also, I was wondering, like, what would team meetings look like? Team huddles or lunch meetings, like the whole social concept. People enjoyed going to work to interact with their teammates, with their colleagues. What would those interactions, like, what form would they take on, right? People are social, like, to Mina's point, TikTok, all these social media avenues have blown up because people want to find an outlet to interact with other human beings. So, coming back to this new workplace, how would that evolve? Like, what means would people find to interact in such a situation, right? Socially or professionally? That's very interesting as well to explore or to just think about.
Yeah, and also some company they are very sort of innovative. They have the like sharing the table, and then
Mhm.
some organization you have to book your desk
Yep.
maybe 2 weeks in advance, and you basically share the workplace. But with this COVID-19 thing, like I think this is not really possible. So I'm very curious to know like how those organization is going to do. And the other thing is like if they cannot let all the employees to come back to the office at one time, maybe they have the alternative day. Maybe like, oh, say that you come on Monday,
Yes.
Tuesday, and then I come on Wednesday or Thursday. So then to
Yes.
reduce the traffic in the
Yep.
workplace.
Absolutely. So I have friends working at the banks. That's what they've been saying as well. That will most likely what will happen in fall. So in another couple months at least, right? Like a staggered workforce or shift timings. So to avoid having a bunch of people together in the same place or together on the transit. So to avoid those crowds and volumes. So yeah, I absolutely see that happening, at least initially. Mhm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Nice.
So, Sally, when we were talking earlier, you were talking about how maybe a lot of companies are going 4 days. So, I wanted to point out, and I think I mentioned it in one of my previous shows as well, or maybe it was in a class. We do a lot of those. I do a lot of those. But Shopify announced that they're going to be working remotely now as a norm for them.
Mhm.
Fix announced that they're going to be following the same way. Banks have announced that many of their positions are going to become remote. So, and you mentioned, some examples of how certain countries have gone from a regular 5 day to 4 days. So, if you guys can throw some light on that, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, so I think last week there was this article in the news that New Zealand was considering a 4-day work week, right? So a 3-day weekend essentially. So that would sort of help with maybe people having more time, feeling more productive, more work-life balance, like a better work-life balance. So that was sort of the idea floating around. And again, other countries were sort of debating on that as well. So it's very interesting to see that, like a condensed work week. What would that look like for different industries? Like I can imagine tech workers being able to roll with it, maybe other industries. But what about other workers working in warehouses or factories? Like what would a 4-day work week look like that? Like would that make it a more intense work week for them? Is it better to have like work spread out over 5 days rather than have everything condensed into 4 days? So those are sort of the implications that I guess companies, leaders, and industries will have to think about, and how it would, what implications it would have going forward.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Recently, I was reading about a company, and I cannot remember the name of the company, so forgive me. But many companies that are facing a financial downturn, they've also started talking to their employees about their financial situation, and many employees have decided to take pay cuts or, do the staggered employment where, sorry?
No, continue.
Yes, so staggered employment, staggered contracts and stuff, so that everybody makes somewhat of a livable wage, but at the same time, the stress on the financial stress on many organizations is reduced, so they can be a lot more productive and at the same time be able to manage their workforce and their obligations. You've heard anything around that?
Not too much. Can't say I have. Have you, Leo?
Not really. Yeah.
All right. So, guys, I brought these wonderful people, and we do the last call so that you can ask us questions. Would love to hear from you on what are some of the thoughts that are going in your mind. I know that, and I've talked about this, my personal reluctance on getting from the face-to-face. Like I'm a hugger. For me, when I meet someone, and these guys are smiling because when I meet someone, it's not a handshake, guys. It's always hugs, right? So for me, I'm working on, okay, the social distancing. I've been home since March 16th, not allowed to go out, living in this bubble. When I meet my friends or when I meet my coworkers, what's my reaction going to be? Like, am I going to do the elbow shake the foot shake? Right? So those are some interesting thoughts that I play with. But also, Biju was sharing with me recently that he had attended a remote session where he was speaking, and it was designed, the platform was designed more like a office space where people would actually walk into the office. And we experienced that by when we started using our breakout rooms for Zoom sessions.
Often.
Right? And I have to admit, 10 years I've been working partially remotely, and I've always loved it. So this, the social anxiety that's in me more is because I'm missing my students, and I'm missing that interaction with my physical interactions with my friends. But besides that, for me, it's been fantastic. And I know that for many of you, you're saving a lot of time and being, or many of you, a lot more productive.
Mm-hmm.
So, getting adjusted to the whole Zoom and the breakout rooms and these live sessions. By the way, everybody knows that I really have anxiety attacks when I have to do these live sessions. And I do it because I need to get over the fear of being on camera. So what are some of the things that you're struggling with? Some of the things that these wonderful people can give you guidance on, and, talk to us. We'd love to hear your comments. Mm-hmm. And as I said, hi, everybody.
We already have
Working,
some comments here. Yeah,
we have great comments. Working remote also requires shift in leadership thinking. Yes,
absolutely.
and right, going
Yeah.
back to the point where you want us to be tracking everything we're doing. You want us to keep our webcams on constantly, regardless if we're comfortable or not. But really, who's watching it? Is this
Exactly. That's such a good topic. Biju, if I can jump in, right, Meena? Like, I was talking to someone and they said they have video calls, team video calls, twice a day. So, initially, when everyone was struggling to wrap their heads around this whole pandemic and working from home, that looked like micromanagement. It looked like, oh my God, twice a day is too much. But I think as everyone eased into it, they actually enjoyed those interactions. It was nice to have that social touch point to interact with your colleagues. And 15 minutes, 10, 15 minutes, not too lengthy. It was good to know what everyone was doing, get caught up, get those updates. So I think eventually, as time went on, they actually started enjoying those calls. So, absolutely, how do leaders deal with this, right? Maybe some new leaders may not be equipped to lead remote teams. Like, how do they adapt to that? So, yeah, I think absolutely leadership. It's very interesting how they'll be dealing currently and even in the future as people start returning to the workforce, right? Where do you draw that line with in between being there for your team and micromanagement? I think that I think that's a tough call.
we
And
should
it
Yeah,
does
probably
require
ask
some skill.
yeah,
we should
and
probably ask Bija to join us here as well and answer some of these questions. What do you
Yeah,
think?
absolutely.
Leo, your
yeah,
take?
and of course we are talking about like for those who are able to work from home, but like I don't want us to forget about some type of jobs like that's not an option at all, right? As like for example those restaurant or even I think about the conference business. So if everything back to normal, they have to do things differently, and those leaders, right, they have to find a new way, maybe find a different way to gain the confidence of the people that they can go back to work. Like I somehow I think we are kind of lucky because okay, my work I definitely I can work from home, but I really appreciate those like they have to go to work, that type of profession. So they will have some change in the workplace as well. So now, for example, the restaurant, like they cannot open right now, but I'm still curious to see like in the future how they can do the table setup, right? So maybe, well, maybe they can put 10 tables before, now they have put 10 5. So just wonder how that can work for different business. So in this situation.
Yeah, very, very interesting. So on that note, right, Leo, like there's a lot of comments about commercial real estate space, right?
Yeah,
Nobody's going to work. Like, what do you do with all these big fancy offices? But to your point, Leo, if there have to be social distancing norms, maybe some companies may need a bigger space now, right? To
yeah.
accommodate those
Mhm,
distances. And
mhm.
like you said, 15 tables instead of 7 tables, right? So it's pretty interesting to see how companies figure that out as well.
And also I want to add to it is like for this not just working from home or different arrangement, is like suddenly I think many people talk about the mental health like in this situation, like they never really talk too much about it, focus on it before, like suddenly now like everyone cares about, okay, everyone's stuck at home, like just checking like, oh, you're doing okay, your employee is doing okay. Like I just wonder like before, like have you ever go to any meetings like the leader will ask you like, oh,
Are
how's
you
your, how
okay?
do you feel, are you okay, like suddenly become like a norm as well. So every time like you get this question very often, like let's put it this way. So it's like, oh, are you doing fine, do you talk to anyone, oh, did you call your family or blah 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 right? So somehow I find, oh, okay, so now maybe they have a different thinking, I think, which is a good thing,
Different
like, oh
take, yeah.
yeah, it's
I'd
because
say
of this.
that's one
Yeah,
positive that's emerged, right, out of this
yeah,
whole situation. People are now okay with
yeah,
asking such questions. Initially, it would be, no, I don't really know that person very well. I can't just come out and say it. But I think those things have now relaxed. Like people are more sensitive, more empathetic. So that's what I would say is a good thing to come out
yeah,
of this
yeah.
whole situation.
So I think just let some people like maybe they didn't think about it, but now like because of this change, then this come up with some like a new norm like right now.
Absolutely. Like HR, I see HR playing a role in this, right? Like as people return to the workforce, like I believe HR will play a big role in making sure they're comfortable, things like these. They're sensitive to how employees are feeling. I'm hearing a lot of employees are being given a choice. They can come to the workplace if they choose to, but no compulsion. So I think that's great. It shows that leadership is really thinking about them, putting people first, and really empowering them with the choice, right? That they
Yeah.
shouldn't feel compelled to come and show up and take risk if they don't want to. So I think that's a big thing.
Yeah.
Very true. There's a question for you guys. Which areas do you think the virtual environment can have unfavorable implications or maybe more challenging?
Not sure I understand the question.
So,
I
unfavorable
yeah.
implications. So, how can
I
you
think
know?
I can answer the more challenging is like I think some organization they are still struggling about the job interviews, because even though we can utilize this virtual interviews, but I think when you come to hiring a person, you have to make sure this person really fit into the culture, and then you really need that face to face or like some human touch, right? But now I think maybe they have to figure out like what to do to make this face to face interview happen. So maybe they have to put some barriers like when they're meeting the person, or they have to sit like 6 feet apart of each other. Like I think the some organization they are trying to do it right. So this can be a little challenge for the job interviews, because I don't think the video or the virtual environment give the most of the hiring managers like 100% confidence, like when they try to make that decision.
Interesting. Yeah. On that note, I was reading an article that talked about all these tech companies, right, Meena, like you mentioned, especially in San Francisco, which encourage remote working, at least for the next little while. So then there are some conversations that said people may not want to live there. Like if they don't have to commute to work every day, they may not want to live in those expensive areas. They'd rather move somewhere cheaper, which is, not very expensive to live in. Cost of living is not that high. So then there could be an unfavorable or not so favorable outcome of it, that employers may ask their employees to take pay cuts or reduce salaries, right? If you're not living in such an expensive area, do you really need this high salary? And those could be sort of the conversations which I foresee happening. Not ideal, but that could easily be a thing.
I feel that as many positive implications there would be for going remote, like not having to wake up. I'll give you my family example. My husband's working from home. He works for the city, and he used to wake up at 4 a.m. every morning and be on the road by 7 o'clock. He started work at 8, right? But now he wakes up at 7 so that he can be at work at 8, and he just has to go down to his office in the basement, right? And that's another thing I feel, that as soon as things change, people are going to start complaining about commute and the weather and all of the other things that come with it. But there is also that economical turn, right? When we go to work, the transit system makes money. There are people that are employed because we are going to work, the coffee shops, the food restaurants,
lunches,
right? Lunches, pubs in the evening after work, the drinks, right? So there are, those things are going to see certain changes. So as in certain industries are growing, certain industries are losing. But at the end of the day, it boils down to team engagement. Going to what Sina was saying earlier in the chat, she misses her team. So that team engagement and the leadership structure obviously changes because they have to be more result focused versus what the individual is doing. But also the team engagement loses because now you're not meeting each other. You may appreciate it more, but at the same time, that bond of I'm going to have lunch with you every single day to, you know, maybe a team phone call, there's so many things that will change, right?
It will. Absolutely.
And from my experience, like I really miss the small talk in the organization in my office.
The
It's
water
like,
cooler.
okay, like just get real, right? So sometimes we will talk to our colleagues or different things, right? It's like in the office environment. Okay, maybe you have a meeting, and then after you heard something and then you want to share with your team members, and maybe you just walk by the desk and then hey, like then just like you will start the conversation. But now it's like you make it like, oh, I really have something very important, then I schedule a meeting with my colleague and we talk stuff, right? Is we I just miss that part. It's like I'm losing like just those casual talk. Like, okay, I don't feel like to just send someone the Outlook on the calendar and say, hey, let's have a casual talk. That's kind of weird, right? But
You know
that's the
what,
thing,
Leo?
like,
That could be the
yeah,
new normal. You never
yeah.
know.
but
You'll
but
see
it's
calendar invite saying, hey, catch up Friday, 5 p.m.
yeah. So that's the thing, like when you have a really like a face-to-face interaction in the office, then now I don't have it. So is that part I miss it, yeah.
I miss that too. I've been
Hmm.
talking to a lot of candidates who've started new jobs in the last couple of months. They've never met their managers, they've never met their teams. It's all virtual, right? And yes, technology has helped with, interfacing, video calls, what have you. But I agree, Leo, there's something different, right, about physically sitting down with someone, catching up over lunch. Technology does help us come close, but yeah, it doesn't it doesn't replace that. So yes, I miss that too. And going forward, I'm sure everyone would sort of miss that element. And I guess find ways to adapt. For example, like my colleagues, we connect, we add each other on Instagram. I know updates on what's happening on their end. Are they gardening? Did they walk their dog out today? So you sort of find ways to get caught up, right? And I agree with you. It's different. It's weird to schedule like a catch up call per se, but maybe that's okay too. Going forward, maybe that'll be the new thing.
Yeah.
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 And also, when we were talking about the challenges for business people, Dr. Aladdin has a point that it's become a new challenge for consultants and stakeholders to getting a bit inefficient because they're unable to get hold of people. I was talking to some of my students today, and my students were also sharing that they're having some challenges getting in touch with, with certain people in the college that they need answers from because they just have to depend on this electronic messaging, right?
Yep, and time, like maybe, they're in a meeting, they can't get to your query right away, right? So in a physical workplace where you could just pop over and tap someone on the shoulder for a quick question, now you have to wait till the person responds to your message or email. So yes, those are sort of the implications currently too.
So how do you appreciate team members and provide training? Okay.
It's a good one.
Yes, so both of you are doing that in some way, shape, or form, either interviewing or getting them ready for the interviews. Do you want to answer Ruchika's question?
Yeah, I have an insight. So, what we did in my company when this whole pandemic started, we get together half hour every week on Thursday mornings just to chat. Half hour just so everybody can express their concerns, what they've been up to over the week. It can be anything, it can be personal, professional, just an update. How are you doing? How are you feeling? What's new on your end? Everybody comes together and shares, which I feel is amazing, right? This is a great way for people to be heard heard, come together as a community, as a platform, on a platform together. So I think if management can do things like these, it really goes a long way. It shows your employees that you're taking those extra steps, you're taking those effort, putting in those effort to make sure you're there for them, and just providing a platform. Sometimes just people want to be heard. They may not have anything significant or profound, but just, acting as a sounding board sometimes, can make someone's day, right? So I feel that's a great way to show appreciation. Anything like that, an appreciative email, one-on-ones, giving compliments, that has always worked in the past, right? That's how we've always shown appreciation. So just maybe doing it a little more, or maybe, like Leo said, getting more creative by how you show appreciation, that would go a long way, especially in this climate.
Yeah, and for the second question is about the training. So, well, actually, when this pandemic just happened, so many organizations like, okay, work from home, but many of them, they didn't know like how to onboarding or training the new staff. So at that point, it's like so many unclear factors for them. So, but now is already, unfortunately, it's already been 2 months. So company already figure out, okay, they can do the training virtually. I heard some organization, even for the new hires, they ship the courier the device to the
Yep.
to the new
That's what our
employees.
clients have done.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and to me, like onboarding is not that difficult to me. It's like, okay, how just see how you can engage with that new person, right? Easy as like maybe you don't even need like a video platform to do the meeting. Like just like go back to the convention. Just one phone call, like to check in with your new employees, and of course they need the device to do the training. So sometimes it's just some simple thing. You don't have to make it too complicated. Phone call is good, right? At least you get engaged with the new people in the organization. Just talk. This is not something very new, phone call. So
Absolutely.
yeah. So but just I think people, of course we are human, like sometimes you don't get used to the new way to do things. Some people, they have fear, or like, oh, what I'm supposed to do. But that's proof that like when time goes, then suddenly you have new ideas, suddenly you have new way to do things, and then that works.
Got it. Yeah, great point, right, Leo? And
Mhm.
two, like you said, it doesn't have to be new, innovative things. Sometimes just the simple old ideas, but reinventing them or just using them in a different fashion, that can work out as well. So, for example, buddy system. This has been going on in
Mhm.
office spaces for the longest time, but I feel that's really instrumental, especially onboarding new employees in such a scenario, right? Your new employees sitting alone at home, if people can be shy to always approach their manager or to speak up or ask a question, having a buddy, having a go-to person, in most cases a peer, right? Someone who's doing the same job as you, on the same team as you, just having that go-to person as a sounding board for, little questions, just to bounce ideas off of them. I think that really puts someone's mind at ease, especially if you're new in this setup. You don't want to be, thought of going to your manager all the time, scheduling
Mhm.
meetings for every single question. So just having a buddy, someone to go to, if it's not officially assigned to you, ask for it, right? Or just, speak up, approach a team member. Hey, I see you've been in this company for a while. I'm new here. Can I come to you with any questions? I'm sure most people will be happy to help, given current scenario, or even in general. So to your point, Leo, just these old things that have been in the workplace for a while, just reinforcing them could really go a long way in getting new employees comfortable.
Sorry, guys. So one challenge of working remotely is power outages. I had no
Oh, wow.
idea, but we're having power fluctuations, and and I lost you guys. But I see Rashmi's question is there. Did you guys answer it? Sorry, I
No,
wasn't
we were just talking about onboarding employees, like training, those questions.
still on the last question. Okay, I didn't miss much. All right. Well, here's another one. Who wants to take it?
Could you read the question, Meena? I'm not sure which one.
Sure. So it says, what are the possible questions that can be asked in interviews post-COVID, in addition to the regular questions?
That's a good one.
How can someone answer if you have never worked virtually? Employer expectations while hiring.
That's an interesting one.
Yeah. So what did you do during COVID?
Yeah.
How did you upgrade yourself?
Absolutely. And I actually did a post on this, Meena, a little while ago. That could very well be the interview question of the future, right? Like, what have you been up to during this whole pandemic? Like, how did you reinvent yourself? Like Meena's point, how have you upgraded your skills? And I feel like, yeah, if you have a great answer to that, you have spent some time upgrading your skills, learning new skills, and it doesn't have to be professional. Maybe, you took a cooking class, maybe you took up gardening as a hobby. It doesn't have to be tied to your work. As long as you can show that you've been busy, you've been productive, that's fine. And if not, you know what, that's okay too. Like, to me as a recruiter, right, I'm not gonna expect some really great answers. If that's there, that's fine, but I would not use that to judge someone or to discount them on their credibility or their qualification for a potential role. But yeah, that was a very, very interesting question.
I would like to start with, like, suddenly I think of one question that probably the employer won't ask is that, oh, how do you see yourself in 5 years? How did you see yourself in 3 years? Because this, like, anyone 5 years ago could predict this, right? So that question to me, become like irrelevant, like, for the job interview. So, but one thing I do think about is that maybe the employer will ask more questions about, like, oh, how do you motivate yourself?
Nice. I
when
like
you're
that.
working from
Absolutely.
home? Yeah, because employer mostly they focus on the performance, right? I think they would like to ask this question. Oh, how about, like, if you get distracted, so what would you do? This is
Yep, I
some
like
more
it.
question that probably maybe they will
How do you keep
ask
yourself
more.
disciplined,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. How do you
Yeah.
hold yourself accountable to your work, to your
Mhm.
deliverables? Absolutely. Great question,
Yeah.
Leah.
Mhm.
So another question from Harpreet: how do you build trust? Do we need to invent a replacement of real physical presence that is a prime requisite to build trust and making connections?
That's a
That's
great. And I'm laughing because I just remembered something my friend said. My friend started a job a month ago, Meena, and he actually told me he would reply to emails at crazy hours just to show his manager that, oh, I'm productive, I'm busy, I'm replying to your email at 11:30 in the night. So just on a lighter note, but yeah, that is actually what he was doing. So yes, building trust is tricky when you're not in the same space. It does require some extra effort. But yeah, I feel as long as you're committed, you're doing your job, you're showing up every day, and just being positive, right? Believe me, that comes across even in limited interactions and limited video calls. That does come across your attitude, how you're showing up for work every day, and how you're conducting yourself, right, in your job. So yeah, just keep doing that, I would say.
Yeah, and I don't think building trust has any difference, like, virtually or in person, right? I think it's about, if you have a task to do, you can do it on time, you keep your promise, then that's a good thing to show that to your manager, right? And also, to me, it's like, if there's no trust, no matter, like, you are in the office or you are at home, there's no difference. Just like people asking, um, how can I'm sure you really working from home but you are productive, right? So if there's no trust, that this kind of arrangement doesn't work. Because if you keep questioning the your subordinates, like, oh, you work from home, you're not productive, then there's no trust at all, right? So even though you are in the office, like, or you can be challenged about, oh, you take an hour lunch, and why are you not in your cubicle to work, right? So that's not, I don't see, like, virtually or in person, that make a big difference. So, but just it's about two people, like, how to build a relationship, and how do we be professional and keep our promise and do our job.
Yeah, on that note too, what I will say is set expectations
Yeah.
upfront, right?
Mhm.
Have open conversations, really know what are your deliverables, what's expected. It's easy in an environment like this for things to fall through the cracks, right? When there's no communication or not effective communication, I would say. So make sure you're having those conversations early on, set expectations, so then you know how to deliver on them. That's how I would look at it.
Mhm. And we've had some wonderful comments over here about, you know, how different companies are working in, people are working in distributed teams, and companies, companies, especially from New York, moved to southern parts, gave pay cuts if an employee agreed to move.
Okay,
I'm
interesting.
assuming pay raise if
Mm-hmm.
the employee agreed to move. That's interesting. And here, miss whiteboarding sessions with other communications that happens in pantry, or just pop over somebody's desk. That's exactly what Leo was saying, that, you know, those water cooler
Team interactions,
conversations, team interactions are missing out. So anybody has any questions for us? I'm just going through your comments to make sure that we don't miss anything.
Yeah, there's a question that's come up, the last comment, Meena.
Okay.
Should I read that?
Yeah, definitely. I'm just
All
getting
right.
to it.
No problem. So we have a question saying, are companies adopting or will adopt to flexible hours as staying home adds more chores, especially with kids being at home? Is working off hours now part of the new norm? That's a very interesting question. And absolutely, there's an overlap, right? The lines are blurred because you did have earlier set work times, you come home, you have your evening activities, kids, cooking, what have you. But now those lines are blurred because guess what? There's no physical separation or delineation in work timings and home life, right? So yes, sometimes it is easy to get caught up in it. I've had people telling me their managers have unrealistic expectations from them. They're expected to work over the weekend because guess what? They're home, they have nowhere to go. I don't think that's healthy, but yeah, it again comes down to having those conversations and management really being aware and sensitive to the fact that yes, just because employees don't have anywhere to go doesn't mean they can work through the day, right? They need times to themselves as well, especially with kids being home. So absolutely, flexible work timings should be encouraged and should be part of the new norm as we move forward from this situation.
Yeah, to me, I think once you set like a time to work, for example, if I just work 9 to 5, then I will get online a little bit earlier than 9. And then, well, 5 is my finish time, then I will just switch off my my email. So, and I don't do any work related thing unless I am asked, right? So then that's another issue is about the overtime, right? Because you work extra hours like beyond your regular hours. I think Sally should make a point is like then it is something you have to make a conversation with the leaders, with your managers, like then maybe today you can work from 8 to 4, and then next day maybe you can work like from 10 to 6. So it really depends on the company's policies, and of course, like you have to find a company with a good culture, and they really care about their employees. So that's something maybe they can, like the person can look at.
Yeah, and a lot of people may be afraid to speak up, right, Leo, in
Mhm.
this scenario where people are losing jobs, like there aren't too many jobs coming up, at least as the market is reviving, economy is picking up. But yeah, does that mean you should work unrealistic hours? That's a tough call, right? A lot of
Mhm.
people are afraid, like, oh, if I say no, will I offend my manager? Like, should I fear for my job? I think then that's not a good job to be in the first place, right? If you cannot speak up, you can't speak your mind over something as that impacts you on such a level, that's not a great place and culture to be in the first
Yeah.
place. So
Mhm.
yeah, I'd say it's case by case, but I know a lot of people may be afraid to speak up just because of the current climate.
That's really sad, isn't it? We are, you know, and this was a conversation I was having with one of my friends working in the essential services, where She wants to go to work because she wants to serve people, but at the same time, she's fearful for her own life and her kids. And the decision of going to work, um, even though her kids are so young, and every single day she's afraid that she comes home and she's bringing in something that could hurt. I mean, there are, everybody's doing everything, right? They're trying to sanitize, they're trying to clean everything. At the end of the day, that personal fear, we're seeing a lot of losses happening. So it's scary. But anyways, it's a very interesting question that Rajagopal is asking us. And it says, on the contrary, with COVID driving work from home, the traditional way of saying no to too many asks is vanishing or blurring. How can we say no politely in an online space without hurting relationships? And Sally and Leo, you guys were just talking about it, right? It's like the expectations from leaders, because you're working from home, are, and from some leaders, I have to admit, not everybody, but from some leaders, is that you need to just keep working, where they forget that there is a quality of life that needs to be maintained. And now more than ever, where people are really struggling with mental health.
Yes, it gets to them, right? You're home all day, you can step up. I mean, now, of course, weather's better, you can. But yeah, absolutely. It's more important than ever to be cognizant of such things and not just overwork your employees.
It's so how do you say no? You respectfully say no and say, I'm currently involved in quite a few things, and or I'm working on something. Unfortunately, at this point, I cannot, but would love to keep in touch for future. Like, I get a lot of invites to a lot of things, and besides invites, I want to be involved in a lot of things, but that doesn't mean that I can. Today's just today itself, like, I have been online since 9 a.m. and it's almost 7, and I've been on the call and live, and it's been a tough day. So if I have to do something else beyond this, I just don't have the capacity. So you should all know your capacity, and that me time is extremely important.
Yeah.
That, going to the point where, here is where leaders show true leadership. They don't just talk the talk. It's walking the talk now, where you need to be able to trust your employees. You need to be able to support them. You need to be able to talk to them. And, I know that there's a lot of talk about how things are going in the US, right? Specifically after murders and after the murder and of George Floyd, and, the riots and everything. And I've had participants and students whose offers have been rescinded, job offers, because of the huge influence or businesses in the US, right? And it's affecting their health. And, it's happening. So just, you need to accept it, and you need to keep moving forward, and get used to the new, whatever it is. Get end today on a positive note, so tomorrow we can start on a positive note.
Yeah. So Mina, you did it politely, right? To say no, and to me it's no difference. Like you see the people and you try to refuse, right? And you just do the same thing like virtually or in person. But maybe because of my personality, don't you think that when you try to give someone some negative things, it's easier to do it virtually than in person? I maybe that's my personality. Like when you want to say, like, just I don't want to talk about this situation like work, but just like, okay, I get invited by the friend, I go to the party and say, oh, actually I cannot go, but they really want you to go, but you won't go to that person's house and say, hey, actually I cannot come, but probably maybe just some people just send a text message, and then, or you just like call and say, hey, sorry, I cannot go, right? So but I find it interesting. It's like maybe for that negative response, like maybe is it easy? I think maybe it's a little bit
To
easier,
be
like you do it
virtual.
virtually. So
Break up on a
Nice.
post-it note.
yeah, and then maybe you can make an
Text
excuse like,
message.
bad exception. So finish it and then done, boom. So it's
Yeah.
just,
But yeah, I love what you said, Meena, about knowing your capacity, right? Like
yeah.
different people are wired differently. Some people love working long hours. It depends on your personal situation as well. If you're young, you're on your own, like, yeah, you love working long hours. If that's what you want, it works for you by all means. But yeah, maybe someone with a family, they don't like working, throughout like long days. So absolutely knowing what's your hard stop, right? How much can you take on? And maybe if it's a couple instances where you're requested to work weekend or long hours or what have you, then yes, you can accommodate that. But yeah, if it's becoming a regular thing, if it's becoming too much, then yes, you absolutely need to speak up. Otherwise, it's just going to get worse. You're not doing
Yeah.
yourself or your employer any favors by allowing that to continue.
And also, of course, working from home, like maybe some people they struggle on that, like especially if some people they are not very good at time management, maybe they will have the issues, right? It's like, okay, I spend even 8 hours like regular work hours, but I cannot finish like what I'm supposed to. Then may then there's some online articles like to help you to like how to manage your time, because I understand this is a new settings, like not for everyone. Some people very productive in the office, but some people just for me example, like at the beginning, like I don't think I am a person I can do well at home, because I get distracted easily. Yes, just like, oh, at home it's like for me it's just like I sometimes I want to have a coffee. Sometimes it's like I see some places it's, oh, why it's so dirty, and I just like I start to clean it, right? Then I get distracted. But now I think just to focus on your work, and every time remind myself is like, okay, this is your work hour, just focus. And even I write down the task I have to complete on the paper. I even sometimes I will put the time. It's like, okay, from what time to what time I have to finish this. So that make me really focus myself to work, so to achieve what I have to do for the day. So I think that's kind of helpful. So there's many tools like to help you to make working from home more productive.
Yep, a
And,
lot of productivity
Mhm.
apps.
Yeah.
Ankita has a very interesting question. Are there any, as recruiters, have you guys received any new, unique, interesting roles or opportunities, job opportunities?
Mm, Can't say that I have. No, for the most part, it's just been regular opportunities, right? Yes, IT, the networking space saw a lot of upticks when this whole thing started because everyone was working remotely. You needed to have network systems in place. But yeah, I can't say I have, at least recently.
And
Mhm.
and Sally, do you think actually those IT jobs like really get like the demand just increase a lot like during this time? I'm just curious.
Initially,
Yeah.
because companies were
Mm-hmm.
scrambling, right, to have
Mm-hmm.
good
Mm-hmm.
systems in place to support the load of all these
Yeah.
employees working remotely.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
yes, we did see those. E-commerce websites, because everyone was home now, everyone was buying stuff, everyone was spending all their time online. So those businesses, those IT companies really saw a lot of, uptake on that end. But yeah, for the most part now, not really.
Mm-hmm.
But I felt that
Interesting.
job was very interesting, Meena, the one that we talked about earlier today, just surveillance, right? People reviewing
Security.
and
Surveillance specialist.
monitoring
A
employees
different kind of
remotely.
security guard, right? One final question, because guess what? It's 7 o'clock. So
Oh,
let's,
really? Wow.
yeah, I know. You guys do a great talk show. guys. Thank you. So let's get to the final question here. Coming to compensation, have you seen a change in what employers are willing to pay for a position? For example, employers willing to give more as CTC will dip. Not sure what CTC is.
Cost to company.
Okay. Will dip due to less expenses on many things versus scenario 2 will start in the downward trend due to the fact employees have more flexible arrangement.
Okay, so I can comment on that. I've not seen that yet, but yes, there is a conversation when it comes to relocation, moving, right? Like some cities are more expensive than others in terms of cost of living and what have you. So yes, because of the pandemic, if people have been impacted, if they are looking to or open to relocating to other areas to secure jobs, then yes, the pay will reflect that, right? The local cities and what their pay scales and salaries usually are. They won't make that concession just because you're coming from a more expensive place or you're used to those higher salary brackets. So that's something to keep in mind if you are entertaining a potential relocation. Thinking about it. So that's what I'm seeing, which has always been the norm, right? Nothing new in that just because of the pandemic. And yeah, I've not seen too many dips in compensations or salaries other than that, at least as of now.
And Leo, have you seen anything, any uniqueness or any changes in salary structures?
Not really, but I just have maybe a little concern, like because so many people, they are out of work right now. So it's about the I'm not an economist, but like it's supply and demand, right? Just suddenly so many supply of the talent. So then if you do business, it's like then I don't have to pay more to fight for a good talent people, right? So maybe that's not in favor of the job seekers, because okay, maybe if one person have multiple offers, then of course then maybe you can have some compensation negotiation. But if the market is just have so many people have the similar skill set and similar experience, then maybe it's a little bit hard for the negotiation part.
So let's recap. What's the future of workforce looking like?
We don't know.
There you go.
Different workspaces, like the physical office space will look different. I don't think it's going to look like what we've been used to all this time. So absolutely prepare for that.
Yeah, and I just hope the company leaders, they can rethink about something they had never thought before, and focus more on the employees and embracing the new norm and the potential changes in the workplace.
True. Now more than ever, leaders need to step up. Now more than ever, employees need your support. Now more than ever, leaders need to grow the next generation. We're all looking up to you, leaders, and looking for answers of where you're going. And I think everybody understands. We understand that none of us have the right answers, and you're just as human and you don't have the right answers. But at the end of the day, when we're all together and we will rise together, we will get through this. So guys, like Leo and Sayali and Biju and Sina and Dr. Alauddin and all of the mentors have said to you, and all of the speakers on different platforms have said to you, job search is job search, and job search will stay the same. It's resumes can be different, positions can have different types of additions or subtractions. It's been a long day. Did I say that? But at the end of the day, human connections are still human connections. Reach out, network. Nobody knows, like Leo says, I don't know. Nobody can give you the answer of what tomorrow is going to look like. But we know for a fact that tomorrow is coming. So today, Let's get ready for that tomorrow.
Yep.
Don't know
let's
the
prepare.
answers? Let's prepare with what we feel we want to do, what our capacity, what we enjoy, what we're most passionate about.
And what
Right?
you can control. Like I always believe, control what you can control, right? Don't beat yourself up about factors outside of your control, because guess what? You can't influence those, right? So why not do the best with what you can, what is in your control?
Yeah.
So make today a phenomenal day. Well, it's almost the end of the day, and tomorrow we'll work it out again. So thank you, Leo. Thank you, Sayali, for this amazing show. There were great comments. I think we had a very interactive chat. Maybe next time when we come back, we're gonna, have a few more speakers on the floor so that we can, have other perspectives. But be engaged. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Just Google Destination CEO and you'll find out where it is. Sometimes you don't get the LinkedIn alert. I know I've been sharing the feeds, but subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can check it out. We're doing a lot of stuff, so stay tuned. And once again, thank you guys. Thank you everybody for joining in.
Thanks, everyone.
Have a great night.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.
Bye.